let me tell you the focus of it. The primary focus, and by the way, when I tell you the primary focus, if you don't feel you fit within the primary focus, please don't leave. Just hang around for a few minutes and we'll be done. But the primary focus is for those, if you're here today and you say, you know what, I'm a committed, wait a minute, I got to quit using that word. I'm a committed Christian. That takes on a different meaning these days. You can, in some cases, say, yeah, preacher, you really need to be committed. But if you would consider yourself a sincere, a real serious Christ follower, born again, I've received Jesus in my life, and I'm in church and going, and I believe the Bible from the Word of God. That's me, by the way. But if you would consider yourself the same, and in particular, if you'd say, and I'm a regular attender of this church, I participate in this ministry, I'm primarily in last week's sermon, this week's sermon, and next week's sermon, I'm trying to, by God's grace, address those of you that would consider yourself in that category. If you're not, and we love having you, and thank you for being here, and I pray that you will get something from our sermon today, but I've wanted to talk to our church primarily, the committed Christ follower. And this is right here at the 4th of July, and so I'm talking today a little bit about freedom, freedoms we enjoy and have. But also, I go back to a court ruling that happened a week or so ago, over a week ago, that is highly controversial. Any of us would agree to that. No matter where you fall into which view you take in regards to the marriage ruling that the Supreme Court gave a couple weeks ago, no matter where you fall in there, in way left, way right, in the middle, don't know, regardless of that. I felt it was one of those points in the history of our country, especially coming up on the 4th of July. And especially with all of the challenges that we see in our culture today when it comes to church, Christianity, morals, theology, go down the list. These are challenging times, I believe. And so I thought it was appropriate and right that as a pastor of this church, I address the subject matter. And we did last week. I addressed it from the perspective of where I believe true Christ followers should be in reference to a belief in the Word of God, and yet not be judgmental, and yet lovingly live out our Christian life in our society in which we live. And then on another side, I said, good luck with that. That's a tough task, isn't it? I think it is, because within all of our families and our relationships and the work market and all the rest, there are strong differing views. This is sermon number 2 to help us as a church, as a Christ follower, in grasping where do we go from here. I read the blogs, I don't sit all day and read blogs, believe me, because you'd lose your mind. But I see that from watching the news, watching the outcry, the protests, the rejoicing, the agonizing, the things that are posted around the internet, that more and more our culture is very much open and in one another's face. Would we agree to that? There was a day in my lifetime, after all, I am on Medicare. So there was in the day, many years ago, many decades ago, when you might have thought something, if you disagreed with a preacher or another church or somebody else in the culture, you kind of you just publicly didn't talk about it. And now, wow, it's volatile out there. And so, understanding that, I still think it's necessary to, as a follower of Jesus Christ and the Bible and all that, to figure out how do we continue on in our culture and do it in a way that Jesus would do. That's a lot to consider. Because I think it is going to continue to get more challenging in our culture. Today's sermon 2, in what was going to be a 2-part, but now it's 3. I have another sermon I want to share with you next week on this very topic. But here's number 2, navigating the narrow road. Those of you that claim to be Christ followers. Maybe when I'm done, you could be sitting saying, boy, I'm glad I'm not one of them crazy people. Well, your preacher is. So I'll start with myself. I'll even include my wife, who was just on the keyboard here. Right, hon? Yeah, no, she's going, I don't know. Let's wait and hear the sermon first, bud. But notice Matthew 7. Boy, the passage like this is really challenging. Notice it. Matthew 7. You'll find it right in your Bible or in your sermon notes. It says in verse 13, Jesus says, you can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. Now that sounds like narrow-minded preaching to me, doesn't it to you? You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide for the many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. That's very disappointing, discouraging, isn't it? Can be. But it tells you something, that the world moves along having rejected God and Christ, and moves along through life living for self. What I read from this. There are those that hook up with religion. There's a lot of religion in the world. A lot of it. We're saturated in it. And so there's lots of religion, but Jesus comes along and says, listen, I'm not so much interested in religion as I am relationship. And Jesus says to have a relationship with my Heavenly Father, with God the Father, whom we know is through Jesus Christ, His Son, who died for our sins. He said here, the highway to hell is broad. And that gateway that people choose, that is Jesus said, who did He say was the only way? I am the only way. John 14, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No person comes to the Father but through me, Jesus said. So this many avenues, many roads, many prophets, no. Jesus said, I'm exclusive. That's why the road is narrow and difficult. Then after, let's say that you do embrace Jesus and follow Him, then He says, and that narrow road, it can be difficult. In our culture today, a lot of Christ followers would say, boy, this is getting difficult. This is getting difficult. And I would agree. All right, I have one bit of humor and then one very serious, and then I want to share with you these few thoughts that I have on navigating the narrow road. I'm telling you it's humor because you're expected to laugh when I'm done. All right, a drunken man got on a bus late one night. He staggered up the aisle and sat next to an elderly woman who was clutching her Bible. She looked the wayward drunk up and down and said, I've got news for you, mister. You're going straight to hell. The man jumped up out of his seat and shouted, oh man, I'm on the wrong bus again. See, thank you very much. Those are really corny, and I realize that, but I like corny jokes. Now, on a more serious note, as I yank this out of my file again, this illustration, it took me back to, I was going to say it took me back to my wilder days, and I had them. But I looked at the year, and it took me back to the early 80s. Now, those of you that were in your teen years or what have you in the 80s, you'll certainly remember AC/DC. Now, my rock bands were BC, the Roman rock band. But I go back to the 60s. Hey, I got bragging rights here. Yeah, I was 18 when we all gathered. No, we didn't. I was in the Army. I was overseas. But when we had the big festival in New York, and what was the name of that? I am on, Woodstock, because I am now on Medicare, so I can't remember that. Woodstock. Yes. Oh, a celebration. Remember that? Those of you, how many of you remember Woodstock? How many were there? Was anybody there at Woodstock and you'd admit it? I found a lot of people that will claim to be there, and they weren't there. They just bought the album and watched the movie. And then, what a time we had. Yeah, sure you were. But anyway, I look back to that era. This isn't more in the 80s. But what a tragic story here. This young man, Ronald Belford Scott, Bon Scott, who wrote this song at age 33, 1980. And here was the song that he wrote. One of them they wrote, Highway to Hell. I just want to read the lyrics and set the tone here of someone that was so much into the drug culture, by their own admission, the drinking and drug culture, and that lifestyle. And I went back to my years of drinking and drugging for a little bit there, and it's not a good memory, bad memory, regretful memory. Thank God for salvation in my soul and getting delivered from that and many other things. But listen to the words, the lyrics. It's one thing to hear I hear the lyrics, and I'll be honest with you, I still have enough rock in me that I'm like, yeah, man. I said, oh, wait a minute, wait, you're the preacher here. Now, just calm down, son. But then I read the lyrics. Now, listen to the lyrics. Living easy, loving free. By the way, free, really? Season ticket on a one-way ride. Asking nothing, leave me be, taking everything in my stride. Don't need reason, don't need rhyme, ain't nothing that I'd rather do. Going down, party time, my friends are going to be there too. I'm on the highway to hell, on the highway to hell. Highway to hell, I'm on the highway to hell. Verse 2, no stop signs, speed limit. Nobody's going to slow me down, like a wheel gonna spin it. Nobody's going to mess me around. Hey, Satan, paying my dues, playing in a rockin' band. Hey, mama, look at me. I'm on the way to the promised land. I'm on the highway to hell, highway to hell. I'm on the highway to hell, highway to hell. Don't stop me. And then the bridge. And then after the bridge, I'm on the highway to hell, on the highway to hell. I'm on the highway to hell, on the highway to hell. Highway to hell, background music. I'm on the highway to hell, 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 highway to hell. Great song, right? Now listen, at the end, and I'm going down all the way. I'm on the highway to hell. 6 months later, he died of alcohol poisoning on the highway to hell. The road is broad that leads to hell. The road is broad that leads to hell. And Jesus said, the narrow path, few there be that find it. And then I would tell you this, that it can be tough navigating it in a culture that just vocally, outwardly, in your face in our day is saying, get out of my face. For me, saying, I'm on the highway to hell and you're not telling me how to live. By the way, I'm not telling anybody how to live. Let me share with you these points on navigating the narrow road. Number one, if you want to navigate the narrow road, Christ follower, sincere Christ follower, staying focused helps us appreciate the journey. Staying focused on your Christian journey, that is a faith that where you say, I believe the Bible is the Word of God. I'm not, by the way, it also says this, I'm not perfect. None of us are. We don't run around arrogantly, well, I'm sinless and you're sinful. No, we're on this trail. We're on this highway, this pathway, narrow as it may be, humbly going through. Trudging along, Christ in our lives, not judging everybody around us, not playing God, just humbly thankful that God loved us and gave His life for our sins. We recognized it, and He has forgiven us our sins and given us opportunity to live out our lives here on this earth serving Him. That's what I see as being on this pathway, on this roadway. And in order to complete the journey that the Bible encourages us to do it successfully, I believe you need to stay focused and staying focused on Christ. Like right now, I could start looking around and look out the window and get distracted, especially where I'm now on Medicare. I could look out the window, get distracted, and say, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Well, in our life walk, we can begin looking around. If you look around too much, you get distracted, and if you're not careful, it can pull you off the path. And so as we stay focused, it helps us avoid tragic outcome. It helps us appreciate the journey. Paul said to the Thessalonian church, and by the way, the Apostle Paul, Jesus, the disciples, and as he's writing to this church in Thessalonica, they were living under Roman rule. The world power of the time was Rome, and they were living in troubling times, and socially, you talk about morally and otherwise challenging, at a time when it was expected that you respect Caesar as God and no one else. They lived during challenging times. And yet, during these challenging persecution times for the church, Paul writes to the Thessalonians here in 1 Thessalonians 5, and he says in verse 16, always be joyful. Look at it. Never stop praying. Be thankful in all circumstances. And so I would say to all of us that are following Christ today, and we're trying to navigate the narrow road, that stay focused. It helps you appreciate the journey. Appreciate the fact that you know Christ, you see an end, you see where you're headed, and with all the things going on around you, as confusing as they might be, as challenging as they are, stay focused on Him and appreciate the journey that you are on. In the midst of it, always be joyful. That is, in your heart, you're thankful that you have God, Christ in your life. And when you speak about of hell, the rock singer, the AC/DC guy that said, I'm on the highway to hell. You know what you're singing? I'm on the highway to heaven. Thank God. I'm on the highway to heaven. And this is the worst I'll know. I didn't mean to swear. I was not swearing when I said that hell, this is the worst you know. I meant that hell is here on earth. Yeah. Just don't clip that and put it on YouTube. I've had other, it's a good crew I got in the booth there now. They would never do that. Would you, Shannon? No. I think she said. Oh, easy to get distracted on the journey. I think just during the summer months, about once a week, I call it my coffee money run for the winter. My son-in-law owns a rental, big tents and all the party goods and all the rest, and his business has expanded all over Maine. And so they needed a trustworthy driver like me. And I go once a week, I grab the truck, and I love it. I mean, a guy in a truck, come on. You don't trust me with a truck? And they do, big truck. And I run down through Boston and all around picking up rental stuff, bring it back, and then they disperse it out, and then they clean it up, bring it back, and I run it back the next week. So usually on Tuesday, in case you're on the highway and you see me coming. But this last Tuesday, I had to make a couple of stops, and one was up in Woburn, then I had to get down to the southern end of Boston, went down 95, and traffic started right around the toll booth in Portland, and all the way down through, and it took me, after I left Woburn, I was another hour or better just getting down to the southern end of Boston on 95, and I said, I'm not coming up through that traffic, because they had a road construction and what have you. I'll never get home. So when I get down there and load it up, come back up through, I said, I'm going to come up 93, right through Boston. That'd be a lot less traffic. Do I have the picture? Yeah, there's the picture. I took that with my cell phone. I was stopped when I took the picture. I really was. Stopped when I took the picture. And we were just coming up into Boston. It took me 2 hours to make it up through Boston onto the north side, and then the rest of the trip home. But it's interesting on this narrow road, if you please, on the journey. Boy, to look around when you can go slow like that, and not one time did anybody blow a horn. But I found by slowing down and looking around, because I kept thinking, man, nobody's blowing a horn. But being good Bostonians, they have other methods of letting you know they are disturbed by you cutting in front of them. And they use hand signals and stuff for for showing their displeasures. But anyway, I found by sitting there, you had to pay attention all the time. Somebody's in front of you. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. We don't do that in Ellsworth. Well, maybe we do, but a lot of distractions. Staying focused helps us appreciate the journey. Number 2, staying focused helps us avoid tragic outcomes. We learn this in Luke 21. Jesus said, watch out, watch out. Don't let your hearts be dulled by carousing and drunkenness and by the worries of this life. Don't let that day catch you unaware. He's talking about the day of Christ. Look at verse 36. Keep alert while you're driving in traffic, while you're driving the narrow road in traffic. And you can start looking around. You want to be careful. Don't be texting. Don't be on your cell phone. 2 hands on the wheel. Keep looking ahead. The road might get boring some, or you'll get caught up in all the distractions around you. Bang! Have an accident. Be very careful. Peter, look what Peter wrote in 1 Peter 5. He knew about, right, train wrecks and crashing on the highway as he denied Christ that time. 3 times. Had to repent of it. Look what Peter wrote in 1 Peter 5:8. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Look at these words. Stand firm against him, verse 9. Verse 9, be strong in your faith. Keep your hands on the wheel. Stay focused. Staying focused helps us avoid bad outcomes, tragic outcomes. Tragic outcomes. Also an illustration of that I'd used, I coughed back up out of my file. This next one here, the picture, do you all see that truck on the left? He was going, this young guy was cruising down the highway there at 82 miles an hour and lost control of his pickup. He literally crossed the median, beat, thrashed, flipped his truck, and landed on that ledge. True story. I've checked it out. And I first saw it on the news back a few years ago and hung on to this story. And now, see, by driving foolishly and not staying alert, not paying attention, you can skid out of control and have great destruction to yourself if you're not careful. In this culture today, you better keep your focus on Christ. Now, notice what he was close to. Go to the next picture. No joke. That's not Photoshopped. That are the actual pictures. You can see the pickup up to the top. He was a foot away from the edge when he landed. He literally flipped the truck, and it landed on its fours right there. I'll guarantee you, when he looked out to the right, he thought he was in a movie. Or something. But just to emphasize the point, you're on the narrow road, pay attention. Pay attention. Number 3, staying focused helps us envision possibilities. Helps us envision possibilities. Paul, on his trip to Rome in Acts 21, the book of Acts, as you know, is the history book of the early church. Those disciples, after Jesus has ascended to heaven, He's commissioned them. They've gone out to spread the good news. Peter and Paul, all these other ones, they're out spreading the gospel and planting churches and all of that. But as they're going, we follow the life of the Apostle Paul. By the way, how many of you are watching the series AD? Any of you? If you're not, what channel is that on? History? No, it's not on History Channel. Is it? It's over, but what channel? NBC? 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 Oh, NBC. The AD, to get the cultural feel of what these disciples lived on, I recommend it highly. To watch that series, if you can get it, go into your, if you have DVR, whatever you got, if you can go find the thing. And I have believed the new series is coming out, but they're following them through the book of Acts is what they're doing. After the resurrection, ascension of Christ, and you really get a grasp on the challenges that were there for those early Christ followers. But here in Acts 21, Paul's been on his journey. He's been doing missionary work for some 30 years at this time. started many churches. There's around 40 churches recorded in the book of Acts that we know that he established throughout the known world. And now he's had a passion in his heart. The Apostle Paul has a passion in his heart to go to Rome, Italy. That's a big trip for him. And he's driven by the Spirit of God. Well, he's making his way off his third journey. He's coming back to Jerusalem. And on his journey back, he's confronted by others that have heard about him saying that he wanted to go to Rome. Well, they're saying, you go to Rome, you go up there and start preaching this King Jesus business, you're going to get killed, Paul. But he is focused on doing the will of God, staying on that narrow path, and he's not going to be distracted and discouraged from it. Notice in Acts 21, verse 10, Luke, who traveled with him, the physician Luke, traveled with him throughout his journeys and did the recording and recorded this wonderful history book. He said in verse 10, several days later, a man named Agabus, who also had the gift of prophecy, arrived in Judea. He came over, took Paul's belt, which would be that the cloth wrapped around his waist that they would use to carry their money in it, or a weapon. You could have a knife or what have you tucked into that belt. But he took his belt and bound his own feet and hands with it. Then he said, the Holy Spirit declares, so shall the owner of this belt be bound by the Jewish leaders in Jerusalem and turned over to the Gentiles. When we heard this, we and the local believers all begged Paul not to go to Jerusalem. But Paul said, why all this weeping? You're breaking my heart. I am ready not only to be jailed at Jerusalem, but even to die for the sake of the Lord Jesus. When it was clear that we couldn't persuade him, we gave up and said, the Lord's will be done. I inserted this one into this point to say, even on your journey, if you are following the Word of God as best you can with the grace of God and the help of God, and you're striving to serve Him, and you're keeping your sights on Christ, and you're staying on that pathway of Christ, you can even have other Christ followers, other Christians that will step in and try to dissuade you at times. Be careful what you're doing. Don't go to the mission field. You shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't do that. You'll get in trouble. You'll have these problems. But Paul said, I've been called by God. I'm on the path that He's laid out for me. My vision is that of pleasing Him and being with Him one day and hearing Him say, well done, good and faithful servant. And so Paul was driven by that, and he would not be dissuaded. He would not be dissuaded. And he continued to proclaim the message of the love of Christ. Who could not be impressed after the recent horrid, heart-wrenching killing of those folk in Charleston, gathered in a Wednesday night prayer time. And that young man who violently and viciously shot those folk. And then the aftermath, I was sitting back when I heard it on the news that day, and I thought, oh no, here we go. Here is rioting. We know what's going to happen, the outrage. Instead, there was a rioting of love and grace and mercy and forgiveness. Blew me away. God bless them for it. Now, they're human, and they would say that the right thing needs to be done legally. That's balanced thinking. But to see the initial reaction of grace and forgiveness, God, give me some of that. Give me lots of that. Oh, Lord, help me to be like that. Help me to be like that. Staying focused helps us envision. They envision possibilities of grace and how it could affect the community. It affected the community positively. It affected the country positively by doing the Jesus thing. Number 4, staying focused helps us prepare for needed changes. It helps us prepare for needed changes. Paul told that pastor Timothy at Ephesus, his son in the faith, Timothy, my son, here are my instructions to you based on the prophetic words spoken about you earlier. May they help you fight well in the Lord's battles. Cling to your faith in Christ. Keep your conscience clear. Don't allow the distractions as you're on that narrow pathway. Don't allow the distractions and the temptations and all the stresses of life. Don't allow it to allow sin to come into your life. Keep your conscience clear. Keep your account short with God. Practice what John said in 1 John 1, 9 and 10. Confess your sins to Him. If we're faithful to confess our sins, He's faithful and just to do what? Forgive us of our sins. Cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So he said, cling to your faith in Christ. Keep your conscience clear. For some people have deliberately violated their consciences, and as a result, their faith has been shipwrecked. Many proclaimed Christians today, I believe, are shipwrecking their faith. I could come I wish this is not true, but I could come every week. I could come in here and say, let me tell you of the connections I have through means on the internet and what have you, and people that I know and all the rest. The news that's around the country of this failing ministry, this preacher who made a mess, this gal who made a mess. It's a plague. I could do this every week, and I don't. It would be so disappointing, so discouraging. But I'm telling you, I don't care what your name is, what position is held, whether it's Pastor Rocky or you or any other big-time preacher from Billy Graham on down. We better keep our focus on Christ. Because if you don't, you can get distracted, pulled off the path, and then disappointment sets in, and you find yourself tumbling into a world of disillusionment, and then trying to justify sin, and then destruction and shipwreck, Paul says. Many have run shipwreck, and a lot of them today. A lot of them today. In light of, which I'll talk more about next week, but in light of the concern that Christians have, and rightfully so, or you as an American citizen might have on recent rulings in the court and so on and so forth regarding marriage, you've heard me say many times over the months, my greatest concern is not so much for the culture, though I pray for and I'm concerned for this beloved, wonderful country in which I live and am blessed to live in. But my greatest concern as a pastor is the condition of the church. The condition of the church within America. The condition of the church. We need to keep our focus, folks. Number 5, staying focused helps us continue forward. Staying focused helps us continue forward. Notice what Paul said to the Philippians. Halfway through verse 12. But I do what? I press on to possess the perfection of Christ. He says, as you're going through verse 13, I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking, how? Looking forward to what lies ahead. See, he was on that narrow path. You keep looking forward. Keep moving ahead. Don't get side-railed. Don't get distracted. Keep moving ahead. Christian. Don't be looking back. Boy, a lot of Christians do that too. I know we get into the challenges and frustrations of the day wondering, what? It seems like the country and the world's coming unraveled. The church is unraveling. What's going on out here? The sky's falling. And then I hear the reaction of some folk in my category. Every once in a while, somebody says, oh, for the good old days. Oh, we could go back to the good old church days. Oh, yeah. How much time you got? Let me tell you some stories of the good old days. I like the theology of my mother, who was with the Lord. And back, you remember this, Gerald. She would hear somebody say, oh, the good old days. I can see my mother now saying, oh, yeah, the good old days. I don't want the good old days. I want the good new days. She was brought up on the farm up in Aroostook County with a big family. She was female, so guess what she did all day? Yeah, she fed the rest of the crew, helped in the kitchen. And there was no microwave. And you can imagine doing the laundry back then and the amount of laundry. And the cooking and the cleaning and the care. It was hard work. And going to the fields and working the farms. And she'd say, good old days. She'd look around her home back when I was a kid and with a indoor plumbing and washing machine. Didn't have a dryer. Still hung them out on the line. That was fun in January in Aroostook County to get into your Levi's after your Levi's are dry. Really? Still can't get in them. Chip the ice off them and get in them. But anyway, Mother would always say, good old days, not for me. Well, a lot of Christians, quit looking back. Look ahead. Oh, if we can only go back. To what? To what? I'll say more about that next week. Number 6, staying focused helps us be proactive. Staying focused helps us be proactive. Back in the Old Testament, if you've not caught this one before, clutch into this one. This is at a time when King David was in rule with Israel a long time ago, back in the history of Israel. But boy, here's a gem right here. Out of the tribes of Israel, we caught this. Notice it, 1 Chronicles 12:32. From the tribe of Issachar, as they were organizing the tribes and trying to serve God, have a successful nation, from the tribe of Issachar, there were 200 leaders of the tribe with their relatives. All these men understood the signs of the times and knew the best course for Israel to take. That's powerful. And that's what we need today. Preacher, here we be. We don't want to go back. We don't want to go off on the side roads. We want to move ahead. God, be praying that your pastor and be praying that those of us that make up the body of Christ will have the wisdom of God for what lies ahead. For what lies ahead. Number 7, staying focused helps us adapt as needed. Helps us adapt as needed. Just a quick point here. I left there in your notes, Matthew 23. I want you, because we're not going to read the chapter. I just wanted to make note of it. If you have a chance, read down at your own leisure, Matthew 23. You know, I don't find Jesus spending a ton of time. He went out and had watermelon and stuff with the sinners, with the Republicans and the sinners. Remember that? He got criticized for going into the homes where they were partying or where they were gathering. They said, he's with those tax collectors and those sinners. Boy. Not like us. Oh. Remember the good old days? Not like us sinless church folk. Because you know there's no sin in the church of Christ, right? Right? You agree to that? No, you don't. Of course you don't. But you go down through Matthew 23, the bigger problem Jesus had was not with the sinner outside of the kingdom of God, not those that were on the highway to hell. His problem was with the religious crowd. Arrogant, self-righteous religious crowd. We'll address more of that next week. See, you got to come back next week to get more of this good stuff. Number 8, and finally, because it's lunchtime and it's getting warm in here. Number 8, staying focused helps us anticipate in arriving home to God. Staying focused helps us anticipate arriving home to God. We close with this wonderful, wonderful portion of Scripture in the book of Hebrews. Boy, I love this passage. The writer of Hebrews says, therefore, since he's talking about those that are following Christ, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. Let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping, look at this, we do this by keeping our eyes on who? On Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting him, he, Christ, endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor beside God's throne. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. After all, you have not yet given your lives in your struggle against sin. So my advice for Christ followers today, in the midst of the culture in which we live, with all the blessings we enjoy in America, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, we still have them. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I encourage you today, Christ follower, narrow path, keep your eye on Christ. Keep your eye on Christ. Don't get distracted. Don't get discouraged. But preacher, there's so many discouragements, there's so many challenges, and I don't know how to answer all the questions, and you never will know how to answer all the questions. But you can answer this one. I know Christ is my Savior. I know He loves me and gave His life for me. And I know I'm looking forward to spending eternity with Him. And I know day by day, as I have my failures, He said He'd forgive me if I would honestly confess my sin. Do that. Strive to follow Him on this narrow path. I'm going to ask you to bow your heads this morning. Bow your heads, close your eyes. Navigating the narrow road. It could be that you gathered in here today and you do not have a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ. It could also be that you would say, well, preacher, I think I might disagree with you on how you get to heaven. I believe there are many paths, or I believe that I'm just a good person. And hey, I understand. There are many different beliefs. I would just encourage you with this, that Jesus Himself, God's only Son, who was here on earth 2,000 years ago, He declared, it's been recorded and repeated by those that were with Him and followed Him, that He said, I am the only way to heaven. John chapter 14, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. For God so loved the world, Jesus said. For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him will never perish but have eternal life. Have you prayed to Him? Have you in your own heart asked God to forgive you your sins? The Bible says all have sinned, so have you asked God to forgive you your sins and come into your life? If not, I would encourage you to do so. Also, I would be glad to pray with you, answer questions. I also have literature here at the front, and out in the foyer, when you came in, on the table, there's literature there about having a relationship with God, baptism, and all that kind of stuff. Please help yourself to that. Please help yourself to that. Just examine this truth from the Bible about having a relationship with God, and then pray and receive God into your life through Christ. Those of you that say, you'd say, I'm on that narrow path. Preacher, I believe the Bible, I'm following Christ. I pray you found this encouraging. It could be, though, that you've been distracted, you've been pulled off the path by one reason or another. Why not take a moment right now? We'll pause for one moment and then be done and on our way. Take a moment right now and pray and ask God to do a fresh work in your life. Get back on that, solidly on that path. Look to Him. It could be confession. It could be commitment that you need. Whatever the issue is in your life, don't leave over this next minute. Don't leave without taking care of it. Make a fresh commitment to Him. Pray to Him. And then go out striving to serve Him. Let's pause just for a moment for prayer time, and then I'll close in prayer.